Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team. And what I want to talk about today is the rumors of the new book, our new book for 8th. And really, I just want to kind of touch on some of the major ones and then kind of go on from there about how things are going to change. And I guess the first thing to say is actually these aren't really, at this point, rumors anymore. You know, the book's coming out in 3 weeks, but it's already at the GW stores. I've already held it in my hands. Several other people have held it in their hands. So at this point, it's not really rumors. It's something we know is going to happen because it's already out in print. So some of the things we already talk about to begin with that's going to be changing is the way that the army is going to be laid out, because there's two different ways that I can see it changing. One, I can see either people going to a lot more horde because they're going to be going goblins, and the other way is I can see things going a lot more elite. The reason for that is that, let's look at your plain orcs. The plain orcs got another point more expensive. So in general, people are going to be paying more, except that your options to give them got cheaper. So if you in the past made it so your orcs had two choppas, it's going to be exactly the same cost. It's just going to be more if you went with something else. Yet at the same time, if for some reason you have spears or something, everything gets the chopper rule now. If it's not a magic weapon, everything gets the chopper rule. So in general, you know, most of the ones, like I have 100 guys with shields, they've just gotten more expensive. You know, an 8th, they weren't really the best thing to take anyway. So it's more just kind of like the trend going on, of like it giving you a gentle push saying, okay, let's go with what's actually good in 8th edition. And what is actually good in 8th edition is the other unit I use, which is the Night Goblins, right? You take the Night Goblins with the nets, and you have some big bosses in there. And so Night Goblins, they're pretty much stayed the same. They got cheaper in a way that if you gave them spears before, that's a free upgrade. So that doesn't matter. You can change to a spear for free. So if you ran spears before, now you save points. Nets are a little bit more expensive. Command is a little bit more expensive, but you know, overall, it's not too much in the big picture. So with that push, I could see a lot more people going with straight Night Goblin armies, and at the same time, Night Goblin Shaman got cheaper, so I can see people doing that. On the other swing of the spectrum, you have things like the Savage Orcs that came out, and the big thing with the Savage Orcs now is the big upgrade went from 4 points to being just 2. So all of a sudden now it's a lot more of an option to be trying to be doing this, because then all of a sudden I think it works out to be 9 points a model. That's the regular 11 points a model. That's going to be them, the big guns with the 2 choppas. But either way, with the numbers, the main thing is that you can actually be doing this realistically now and having this unit, and they're going to be hit really hard. The only difference, though, is that now, of course, these guys are more expensive. You're going to be having less. Black Orcs became a point cheaper. Trolls became cheaper by 5 points, and they also went to special. That's the regular ones, whereas the stone trolls and river trolls stayed in rare. They got 15 points cheaper. And as well, you also have this new a Ragnarok super spider thing, right? Nearly 300 points. I'm trying to say not exact points, actually, so that I don't get in trouble. I have to take this video off. That's really tough. You know, it has 8 wounds, a whole bunch of poison attacks. You can't even attack the riders. It's huge. It's stubborn, blah, blah, blah. And really, the reason why I was saying all those things really fast is because those things are all going to kind of push you to become a lot more elite of an orc army. So you have and actually when you do the math, trolls get more wounds per point and do more damage per point than black orcs once you start going to a larger unit. So I can already see people just taking big blocks of trolls. I can see them just taking big blocks of black orcs because, hey, they were great before, now they're a point cheaper, why not, right? Hell, I mean, you should have the room to have a room for a horde of black orcs, a horde of trolls. For your core, you know, you got your big horde of savage orcs, and then you got a couple of night goblin units in there for fun. You got your big, huge spider. But you can see, but these are now all a really expensive thing. So as before, you just have tons and tons of guys. I can see now people are having this elite army that's going to have just a few units of these really tough things. Some other big changes that come around that's going to be kind of interesting is the change to Animosity. So before, of course, on a 6 you run forward, on a 1 you can't do anything. And now, with Animosity, it only matters if you get a 1, then you basically roll on another table. On a 6 you run forward, on a 2 to 5 you don't do anything unless you declare a charge, which usually you are going to be doing anything, or you are going to be doing that anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And then on a 1, your unit takes something like D6 strength 3 hits, so does the closest unit, and then both those units can't do anything. So when you look at that, the worst scenario becomes worse, because instead of 1 unit doing nothing, it's 2 units doing nothing and they take a little bit of damage. However, that's a 1 in 36 chance as opposed to 1 in 6. And really, in general, like I said, that 2 to 5, as long as you're going to be charging anyway, it doesn't matter anyway. So the rule is still there to keep things fun, but for the people that found it that, oh, it just happens too often that you have too many guys that can't do anything, that's not going to be happening anymore. You're going to have a lot more control over your army. Animosity is going to have less of an effect, and yet it's still going to be there just to pop its head now and then, just to kind of make things a little bit fun. But it's not going to... The people that were really angry with it before, I think they should be pretty happy with it now. Another big change we're having to it is we're having the Waaagh changed. So before you declare your Waaagh, general automatically goes up. Same with Black Orcs. You add ranks. The main thing is that everybody's running for it. And the great thing that we used to have from that before is that gave you the charge. So that was fantastic. Well, the thing is, in 8th, the charge doesn't even matter anymore, and of course people always hated it. If you ever rolled a 1, you took D6 wounds. So I know I've had it several times where you have your fast cav unit or something where I declare a wall and they just explode, they just nuke themselves. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, because the way that it works now is that, well, first of all, it's only going to be orc units doing this, and it's mainly you just get +1 combat res, and then your general is going to get plus D3 combat res. So in a way, it's almost less important. It doesn't really matter. But at the same time, if the charge doesn't matter, and now orcs are really good for having lots of ranks for steadfast, but a lot of times we have trouble having the combat res to win. Well, this could be now giving you that combat res to win, so it's not too bad. And you could also argue that, okay, 1 combat res for doing a Waaagh or 1 combat res for declaring the charge, that's exactly the same. But because now they took that out so that a 1 doesn't auto kill you, I think that's fantastic. So Waaagh, it's another change. It's more reliable, and I think that with this paired with Animosity, it's just a way of them putting more control into the Orc and Goblin army, because of, again, the people that were Orc and Goblin haters were the ones saying that they just didn't have control of their army and they couldn't stand when these things would happen. I had 2 turns where my Savage Orc Boar Boys couldn't do anything, and then I declare a Waaagh and they all died when I rolled the 1 and I took 5 wounds and the whole unit was gone. So now that type of stuff isn't going to be happening anymore. So I think that's a really happy thing to see. Another thing to be looking at all this, big changes in Magic. All the lores are different. The casting levels didn't go up that much. Your Night Goblins are now going to be starting with Magic Mushrooms, which is cool. We have some really cool spells coming out. We have ones where it actually there's a foot template for the Foot of Gork that he actually steps down, and that's going to be devastating. That's one of the big Waaagh ones. There's also another one where basically you're going to be teleporting your guys around, and what that's all about is where, before you had the Hand of Gork, where it was kind of like Van Hale's, where you did a movement and it could be a charge. Well, now it has 2 levels, and either you can move a unit basically 3d6 or 5d6, and so all of a sudden, even though you can't get a charge out of this, you can have this unit all of a sudden go to a flank or to a rear, so or if you're trying to get away, this critical unit's about to get charged, haha, now we're over here, we're safe. Tons of tactical options for that one, so I'm really looking forward to this. Another great things, for the little Waaagh, their #1 spell, if it goes off, you have a chance of stealing a dispel dice from your opponent, and it now becomes a power dice, so they really need to try and stop that thing, and so that you don't get your bigger spells, but really it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because either you spend dice trying to stop it or you don't, and then you lose them anyway. So Magic, a lot better. We're now going to the miscast table that's in the actual book, so that's going to be a bit of a difference. But really, I think things are fine there as well. I mean, there's good and there's bad. It's just a change. One of the last things I want to talk about is the magic items. So we went to having a whole bunch of really neat items to just having 8 or 10. I can't remember which one it is now. But the main thing here is, I hear a lot of negative things. Oh, that's ridiculous. Why did they take all of our magic items away? Well, the thing is that in the main rule book, you got like 4 or 5 pages of magic stuff. And, when I was thinking back of it to the last book, I was thinking, oh man, there's so many cool things that they had in there. It's going to be too bad that that's going to be going. But then realistically, over my years of playing, there really is a small handful that I really did ever use. So it's not really that big of a deal. And some of the stuff we have in there is fantastic. I know one of the things I used to always love taking is the armor that gave you +1 toughness. Well, now it gives you +D3 toughness, and you get impact hits. It's going to use all of your magic allotment, but this guy's going to be a monster in combat where he's going to be almost impossible to hurt. And if you put him in something either like, I've heard that people can put things into wyverns, right? Wyverns are 40 points cheaper. I can see them being there a lot more often just for these guys to go a big huge smash and do a bunch of damage, or putting him into a chariot, or even if you didn't get any impacts at all, if you took the point cost before for the item and now think that now on average you're getting +2 toughness, impact hits aside, it's going to be worth it. So really cool stuff there. Another one there, so Savage Orcs, their ward saves go from a 6+ to a 5+. Just another reason why you're going to see a big unit of Savage Orcs big guns in every single list. I can see a very standard unit being, 40 Savage Orc big guns with 2 hand weapons, with a shaman that has this item so that their ward save goes up, and there's also a Savage Orc big boss with great weapon and that armor that's going to give them the +D6 toughness. So that's going to be really tough. Things you've seen coming. Another new unit that they haven't really made a model for is the Squig Mangler, I think it's called. And basically it moves around like a fanatic, 3d6, but when it hits, it does 2d6 strength, 6 hits, so devastating stuff. The problem is that after it actually does that, then it reverts going back to being like a fanatic, going around crazy. And of course, if you get hit with that too, it's really going to hurt. So I still have to really look into this to see what type of tactical advantage you can get from this. But some of the things people are already saying is that, well, even if it does start coming back, say if you're up against some elite army like Warriors of Chaos or something, and you really have to try and deal with one of their big tough units before combat, say they have the big Chosen or something, well, send these guys into them. They're not that expensive at all. They're cheaper than a board chariot, so smash them with that, kill half the unit, and then who cares what they do after. So, there's going to be a lot of things we can do. So the really last thing I want to talk about with these orc rumors is that at this point, you really have to be doing 2 things. On one side, you don't want to be distracted by all the shiny things and start jumping on them and buying them and then realize, oh, I actually should have gone for this. So right now, of course, new shiny thing on the shelf, look at it, it's all great. But wait till you get the book, make your lists, do some math hammer, try some things out, maybe with proxy before you do your purchases, just to make sure you're going to have a good solid tactical idea, because you don't, like I keep saying, you don't want to go and jump to something like, say, the spider, and then find out that the way that you're using the spider isn't actually working well with your army, and now you have to spend a bunch of money to either replace or that spider's a total use, right? So you don't want to run to that. At the same time, we have so many new things that feel free to go out and experiment, right? You're never going to really know how some of these things do until you actually use them in game. But maybe the best way to do that, linked with the last one, is the proxy. So from that, there's a new list. Have fun with it. But we're going to be back shortly, I guess in 3 weeks when the book comes out. And then we're really going to be cranking down and saying, what's tactically good and what's not. So there you have it. Lots of changes. It's basically, overall, the book is getting better. It's just kind of forcing you to go one way or the other, it seems now. It's going to be good to be either really elite or a Night Goblin army. And overall, you can have more control, and there's a bunch of cool new stuff in the book, so have fun with it. So we'll see you next time. Bye.